It's the end of the NCAA as we know it. That was the sentiment when an East Tennessee judge granted a preliminary injunction barring the NCAA from enforcing any of its NIL rules, meaning pay for play in college sports is officially here. That is, of course, as if it weren't already. The injunction hearing was all part of the state of Tennessee and Commonwealth of Virginia's antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA. Also part of the ruling, there's no rule of restitution, meaning no retroactive punishment, which we know the NCAA loves to dish out. So to sum it up, the April transfer portal window is about to get wild. Mark your calendars for April 15th. That is when it all goes down. And that is all the inspiration behind our Free Game Monday segment with Smoke Dixon and special guest Carl Reed. Let's start with this news. For all intents and purposes, pay for play is now legal. Smoke, how do you see that affecting things in the short term?
Thank God somebody said this. So we don't have to be running behind each other and just whispering, hey, we can get. No, it's open now. Pay for play. The good players get paid. The ones that aren't so good, they go to school for free. What's wrong with that? It's an easy way just to alleviate the problem of no one not knowing who's getting paid and who's getting paid. At some point, we might be able to put this all on paper and get in front of it so we have an idea of what each player is worth.
Isn't the NCAA falling apart right in front of our face? We're glad that they just finally put it out there and said everybody can do what they have to do. You can make the money that you want to make. Nobody can punish you for it. Pay for play is here. But what you're starting to really see right now is that the NCAA and all of their rules are breaking down right in front of you, rule after rule. The fabric of the game is changing. And so this new way of doing things, this new way of NIL, and like Emily called it, let's call it what it is. It's pay for play. It's if you come to my school, I'm going to give you this dollar amount, and the recruits and the players are using those things to go against other schools. And so we're here for it, and now it's out on the table.
So, Carl, what actually changes if this was already kind of going on behind closed doors? Is it more public now, or will it actually ramp up the pay for play?
Well, it's gonna ramp it up a little bit because you do have some coaches who were trying to play by what the rules were supposed to be. And you have other ones that have already been operating this way. So now what it does is it puts everybody on a level ground. And when I say level ground, I mean a level ground from the rules. It still doesn't put everybody on a level ground from the amount of money that they have to spend because every collective is built differently. Some collectives have a ton of money and some are really just scraping by. And so you'll get to see even more the haves and the have-nots separated.
Well, Carl, you touched on it. I'm just going to give you a story from my point of view. We had one of the better players come into our office and we're sitting down and we're talking about what other schools are giving him. And we know from hearsay just like everybody else does. But at the end of the day, we didn't know what that magic number was. So we go into the morning about 5 and we all wake up thinking that we had that player. No, somebody else ponied up for $400,000 more. But if this was open, all on the table, where it's an open discussion where everybody can understand what the negotiational value is for that player, we know that going in, if we're tapped out at 1.5, we can't go past this. So we'll move on to the next player and get the best one that fits our building, not the one that we're negotiating that's using our number to get a bigger number to raise that pot for themselves.
Smoke, what makes that really hard in some of those situations for schools too, you could be at the top of the Big Ten in spending, or you can be at the bottom of the Big Ten. You could be at the top of the SEC, or you could be at the bottom of the SEC. So if the numbers are that far apart, you still have to try to get a player that can compete at that level, and it's not enough of those kind of guys to go around. I really think eventually we're going to have to do something to separate the programs that are super spenders away from the ones who don't have much money to spend at all.
I'm interested to see what this does to the NCAA. I mean, I mentioned at the top of the segment that this is the end of the NCAA as we know it. I think that was kind of the reaction on Twitter or X, if you want to call it that. So, Smoke, for those calling this the end of the NCAA as we know it, what's your take on that?
I think it is. This flat out is the end of the NCAA because now you're going to have the schools negotiating contracts on their own without the ability of having the NCAA to step in and say when and when you can't negotiate those contracts. Those contracts are already being handled in front of yourself and your staff. Those numbers are already getting dealt with, and the players are going to be in the building. So the NCAA, We're saying goodbye, slowly but surely.
Well, what does it remind you of? Who is supposed to be over you but can't really discipline you? A substitute teacher. What power does the NCAA have if a judge is going to consistently say, you can't enforce these rules? These rules are a violation of law. They're a violation of antitrust. They're a violation of some rights. And so the NCAA right now, they have a lot of self-reflecting that they have to do. I don't know how they move forward in this new era without massive changes. And schools are in a position now where the presidents have to get together, and they may even decide to go a completely different route than the NCAA.
Well, Carl, we're seeing that happen right in front of us. Right? We have different states that are saying, hey, listen, we're not even negotiating anymore with this NCAA. We're handling it with ourselves. And now once each state start getting with the ADs and the presidents, they're going to find their own union. And once they do that, we know that cash rules everything around all of us. Once the money starts going, once the finances start going in the right direction, yeah, this NCAA, they're going to have players that's on scholarship. And the players that's not on scholarship but getting paid, they're going to be called semi-pro players. And we might just go to a whole nother league. But that's another story to talk about later on.
Yeah, it's got to be another segment down the road, just kind of daydreaming about what the future of college football might look like. When NIL went into effect back in 2021, there were some parameters that the NCAA put on it, but now every single one of those has gone to your right, Smoke. Athletic departments can enter into NIL discussions with players right now, today. Media entities can also enter into contracts, so it is truly a free-for-all. But I want to bring this to maybe a broader discussion about NIL, because as we do on Free Game Monday, we like to give out some free advice. So I'll start with you, Carl. As a prospect, how do you understand what your worth is on the open market?
Well, you're worth whatever somebody is willing to pay you. That's the best way to start it. And if you start throwing numbers out there that nobody's willing to meet, they're telling you something loud and clear. You're just not listening. And so when you get into a negotiation situation, it can become very difficult for you to be really honest about what your value as a player. But the schools that are recruiting you, they're going to really set your market and what it's worth, and you'll have a pretty good idea based on what they're telling you your numbers are.
I've always said it, Carl. I'm going to say it again. Know your value, don't overvalue yourself, and understand your own worth. Your worth is a tap that you cannot put on yourself. So don't go into it with a set number. Go into it with a set understanding that what you're bringing to this university, they've never seen it before. So when you go in there, don't say, you know what, I want to go in there, I want to negotiate 100,000. No, just say, hey, listen, my market says this. And at this point, this is what we're going to talk about. But I might see you 2 months down the line, and this market has totally changed moving forward.
I think where a lot of players are missing out on, Smoke, too, is we get really caught up in the collective. Everybody wants to come into the recruiting situation in the NIL, and they want to crack the collective over the head. But they're missing opportunities, streaming opportunities on places like YouTube and Twitch, social media deals. There's all kind of off-the-field deals. Players don't even know that you used to could not monetize a YouTube page. So the rules have completely changed. The collective is not the only way for you to get paid. There's a bunch of ways for you to monetize content, get endorsement deals, get all kind of other off-the-field money that players were never allowed to do. And so players on both men's and women's sports are not totally maximizing the ability that they have to really generate massive amounts of income with their followings.
Carl, they're missing the whole thing. Name, image, and likeness. Like, you control all of that. Like, the collective is this one set that gives you a one set number that they can't go over. And as we educate ourselves and gain more knowledge on this workspace that we're in, this is the best time ever. It's an uncapped market that you can be in. This is like baseball. You can go out and get whatever you want, shoot for the stars. Make sure you get a proper marketing group that gets you more paper off the field than you can generate on the field. We've seen professional athletes. We know what their contract looks like, but we know they're billionaires. How they become billionaires? By making money off of the court that they're on or off of the field that they play on.
And because there's no strict market set, you might think, oh, I should hire an agent to help me dictate what my market is. Smoke, you've said before that agents are not necessary because marketing is really where you should focus your attention. So before we get into that discussion, though, Carl, what's your take on agents?
I think you have to have an agent. Now, I want you to pay attention to me, guys. I said agent, not your uncle, not your barber, not your trainer, not the guy from your neighborhood, not your older brother. You need a real agent that understands marketing, that understands contract. I would potentially even go with firms that have shown me that they have a history of having successful negotiations in marketing. You are really leaving yourself out to dry when you try to get into those contracts. Some of those contracts are very big, very voluminous, and you don't know what the details are. The devil is in the details. Guys have signed predatory loans. Guys have signed bad cash advances. You absolutely need somebody to represent your business interests when you're going into the NIL space.
Carl, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm going to push you in another direction. What you're speaking of the 2 to 5% of the premier athlete that can go out there and generate this value for themselves, dealing with the blue chip agencies. What I'm talking about, it's a 95% that they're not going to get these big deals. So you don't need somebody going in to negotiate a contract for you that's going to take 20% of whatever you're going to get anyway. Right? At the end of the day, go in with a lawyer that understands how to read the fine details of it. Agree to the terms that you want to and move forward. But at the end of the day, your marketing agent is the one that's going to set you up for the big haul, not the small haul at the beginning of the story.
Smoke, you said you don't need an agent, but you need a lawyer. I don't know about you, but my lawyer doesn't work for free. You're going to have to pay the lawyer too. They're just going to charge you an hourly fee instead of the flat out percentage. You need an agent, or you need your lawyer to have an agent background, because you need to secure deals and you need to know what's going on.
Well, looking at an agent, there's things that these contract agents do. There aren't any languages in these contracts. There's no escalator clauses. There's no reason for you to hire one, because there's no financial gain, because these contracts aren't guaranteed. They're IOUs. You and I both know that. You and I can both read through those IOUs and not sign any BS paperwork that's put in front of you. But if you get a lawyer to read through those fine details for an hourly rate, you'll be coming out on the better side of things financially, instead of paying a percentage for something that's not being negotiated.
Smoke, but here's the problem when you just hire an attorney. Those people are not adept to the business of sports. You need an agent that sports is what they do. And that's the living that they need to make. And the reason that the contracts have not been worth anything, because it's people's barbers advising them on the contract, not real agents that really understand the business.
That's true. Or, as always, Carl, we say just ask you, because you love giving out advice. But no, an actual professional who you pay could be helpful in some instances.
If they call me Emily, I'll point them in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good advice, but it's not some that you should probably be charged for by the hour. We're getting a really good question here that I want to get to real quick before we say goodbye. Bradley wants to know what happened with the Cam Newton scuffle over the weekend. Carl, I think Bradley's asking that because he is a follower of you on Twitter/X, and you've been very vocal about this. So give us your take quick.
We all know what happened because we all saw the video, but I think the important thing to know is this moving forward. I've gotten calls today from all over Atlanta, Georgia, people that are on both sides, some people on Cam's sides, some on the coaches from the TSP side. My only thing that is whatever happened and whatever the reason for it was happening, I would like to see the grown men sit together in a room and solve the problem. Shannon Sharp says something on his show where he said this wouldn't happen at the Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, the Manning Passing Academy, or at a Drew Brees camp. And you know what? Shannon is correct. We have to look at ourselves and be honest and say, only in our community do these type of things seem to happen. Youth football is out of control. We had coaches get killed at a game last year. There was a coach who got shot at a youth football practice in St. Louis, in my hometown. And now you have a fight like this. As coaches and as adults, we have a responsibility to lead and conduct ourselves in a way that we don't have issues like this. I've had several college coaches call me today and vouch for the character of the guys from TSP. They've put out great players, some great young men. They had some guys in the Senior Bowl this year. They've been training guys for the NFL draft. Sometimes when you have a conflict, emotions can spill over. I've been a coach. I've been mad at other coaches. I would just like to see, for the sake of the kids, and most importantly, for the sake of the game, the grown men that are involved in this issue, that have this ongoing issue with each other, get everybody out of their ears and sit down with each other and solve the problem so everybody can move forward.
Brother Carl, preach. You said it perfectly. Culturally, we have a problem with authority. Rarely do you see someone like Cam Newton gets disrespected like this. Cam should not be disrespected, but Cam shouldn't put himself in harm's way to get disrespected. But at the end of the day, culturally, we have to look at each other and say, what do we want our kids to look like? And what do we want the people in our community to represent for the larger audience and worldwide?
And Smoke, any coach will tell you, the communities that we come from and the kids we've coached, we've had a problem with murders. We've had a problem with jail. We have to have a responsibility that we don't add to the violence in the community.
All right. Love it, guys. You can hear more from those two on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. Make sure you are a subscriber. It takes about 5 seconds to press that button. 343,000 of you already have, and we thank you for that.